Hey everyone, and welcome to the Vallisa show. So today I'm going to be doing something different. I'm not going to be talking to a music artist. I'm actually going to be talking to a makeup artist called Vina, but not about makeup. No, we're going to be talking about menopause. Recently, she spoke out on her social media about menopause, and I thought it'd be good to interview her because it is such a taboo subject in the South Asian community. So let's get started. Hi, Vina, and thank you for joining me on the Vallisa show.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about menopause. Now, I'm just going to put it out there. You're not an expert. You're not trying to give advice. What you're doing is you're talking about your journey and you're hoping that that's going to help others and spark sort of conversations, especially in the South Asian community where people don't really talk about what's going on and they don't really talk about menopause. It's kind of a little bit of a hush-hush subject. So
Absolutely.
decided to use your social media to talk out about it, and that's why I've got you on the Vallisa show today.
Perfect. Okay, super excited. Thank
So
you for
let's
having
go with
me.
that's okay. So the first question that I want to ask you is, what is menopause for anyone out there? Because not in a bad way, we've had this conversation before. I'm a lot younger than you. There may be people watching that are a lot younger than me, and they may sit there and think, yeah, I kind of know what menopause is, but I don't. So what is menopause in your words?
Okay, so menopause is, as we have different cycles as a woman, so we have puberty when we start our periods, and then when you start, if you are having children, your body goes through another cycle, and then the last cycle that a woman goes through is when your ovaries are declining, producing hormones. There's technical words for all these hormones, but basically it's a decline of your hormones. So your body is not producing estrogen, progesterone, and other hormones that are needed to have regular periods, control your hormones. Hence, menopause is when we start seeing changes in our body. And I'll be totally honest, I didn't know what menopause was until I started getting symptoms of menopause. So yeah, it's a decline of your hormones and your body taking over and doing things to you that you have absolutely no control over.
So you don't look your age at all, but what age did you start seeing symptoms?
So I was 46, so I'm now 48, so it's for the last 2 years. And my first symptom I started feeling was the hot flushes. So I would be trying to sleep and I would have the window open, I'd have the duvet off, I'd have a fan on, and it's January. So at first I was like, oh, maybe I'm just stressed, because whilst I sort of knew what menopause was, like you said, I didn't really know for sure what it was. So that carried on for a few months. I would have the room absolutely frozen, and I would find ways of cooling myself down. So that could be, some people even use cold packs on their feet because the heat rises through your body. So when that kept happening and your periods get irregular, I went to the GP, and because I was only 46, they thought maybe I wasn't going through menopause, and could it be something else? Am I just stressed? So at that point, they did say to me to just keep an eye on my symptoms. But then I started getting other symptoms where you get moody. So a little bit like, oh my God, why am I feeling moody over the slightest thing, and feeling emotional to the point you actually want to cry.
Wow.
So that's when I started realizing, no, this isn't normal for me. Went back to the GP again. I actually probably had 4 or 5 visits until it was confirmed, because the average age apparently is 51. So they were saying I was too young to be going through, and it was probably something else.
So how did they test to sort of find out that you were going through menopause and it wasn't something else?
So I had a blood test. So that's what confirmed that it was, I was perimenopausal. It's not always a blood test that they use. Sometimes it is just purely on your symptoms, your age, and they'll say to you, yes, you are. And then they'll go through options with you as to what's best for you. So my blood test didn't happen for a good 6 months after I had all these symptoms. So I did ride out symptoms. Sometimes they were worse than other times, but it was a blood test in the end that confirmed I was perimenopausal.
Now, you did say that you were a lot younger than the average age. So the average age is 51, you were only 46. So how did you feel when this was confirmed? Because you knew it was coming at some point, but you probably didn't realize it was coming so soon.
Yeah. How did I feel? Okay, so when the GP told me, sort of took it all in, and they tell you all the symptoms that are going to happen. So one of the things that probably really stuck in my head when she told me was osteoporosis. So your bones will get weaker. So apart from the hot flushes, mood swings, your bones will start getting weaker. And I was already feeling these symptoms. So for example, if I was to sit down and watch a program for half an hour, whereas in the past I'd just get up and carry on with what I was going to do next, all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'll just hold on to the table to get up, or I feel really stiff. So these were all symptoms that were starting to happen, and they all started quite quickly. Like each symptom was happening. Everything I would read about, I could relate to it. It was happening. So I heard that from the GP, and that's probably one of the things that upset me as well, because I was already feeling it. It makes you feel older. So I got in my car after she confirmed it, and I was just really upset, to the point I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to cry. I think I did have a cry actually. And it was, I Googled everything I could read on it, which is good and bad, because sometimes you start waiting for that symptom that you might not be having, because we don't all have the same symptoms. We don't all feel the same way going through menopause. So, but yes, I did do it, like we all do. So yes, I was actually really upset because it's the last cycle of womanhood. So yeah, I was really upset actually.
And what are some of the stages that you went through? So you talked about, obviously you could feel that your bones were getting a bit weaker. You went through the hot flushes. What other stages did you go through that were quite prominent?
So obviously you don't get regular periods, so that's a dead giveaway. The skin changing, your body shape changing. So some of the ladies who've been talking to me while I've been sharing this on Instagram is they say you suddenly start feeling ugly. That's the one word so many women have used: ugly, older, don't feel like yourself. So because I suffer from eczema as well, my eczema came on with a vengeance through when I started going through menopause. So my skin was dry, my hair wasn't the same as it used to be. The eczema previously was only like on my arms or my legs. It was suddenly on my face, which I hadn't experienced before, in my scalp. So you're then dealing with the menopause, the hot flush, and also your skin going haywire. So that's probably what upset me as well. But yeah, that was the main thing for me. And what they say menopause is you have heat rising from here upwards. So I would get a really blotchy chest here, and I could be talking to you, for example, and all I would want to do is itch it, because this heat that was rising, it would actually feel better if I would just touch myself here and just itch my neck. So that was one of the things that was probably my worst symptoms. I couldn't control it. I could be having a conversation with somebody, I'm getting this hot flush, and all I want to do is just like fan myself. But you could be in a meeting at work, you could be having a consultation with a client, and you can't just start doing that. So it was like, it was adapting to just, I've got to ride this out. I'm going to have to pretend I'm not having a hot flush when really your head feels like it's blowing off.
Which must be a horrible feeling.
It was.
So did you speak to anyone else at the time, or did you sort of block it all out and didn't want to talk about it?
At first, probably for about the first couple of months, I didn't speak to anyone about it, because I think I was in denial, because I thought it could be menopause, but I was like, no, it can't be, I'm too young. But then I started talking to my clients. So my beauty clients, I would talk to them saying, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And all of a sudden, everybody was opening up as well. They were telling me their symptoms. Some were the same as mine, some weren't. Some people were experiencing herbal remedies that they've tried. So I started trying things like that. So yes, I did start speaking to people, spoke to lots of women who did go take the option of HRT. So I would say I was very lucky that I had so many clients I could speak to. I probably spoke to at least 10 to 20 women who were going through it, and they all shared different experiences with me. But in the end, it had to be my choice as to what I was going to do to help myself.
And what helped you in the end? Because like we said, everyone's different, and whatever helped you might not help others, but what helped you in the end?
Okay, so here, like you said earlier, I'm not saying HRT is right for everybody. The GP was really reluctant to put me on HRT. She said I was young, I should try other things. And I did. I tried herbal tablets, I tried changing my diet, exercise, which I'm actually really rubbish at. But in the end, after another 6 months of trying everything, I was sent for another blood test, and they then decided, yes, I can try tablets. So I went on to HRT tablets at first. After 3 months, they did another blood test, and unfortunately for me, I suffer from fatty liver. So tablets wasn't the best option for me. So they then changed me over to HRT patches. And I must admit, for me, they've been brilliant. All the symptoms that I was having stopped, except I do still get hot flushes. Not as much as before. Before I was getting about 3 to 4 a day and really bad at night. Now I probably get 2 or 3 hot flushes a month. So they do still come, but nowhere near as bad as before. My skin's better. So they worked for me, but I am regularly checked. So I still have to have blood tests sometimes. I still have, every time a new prescription's due, they will still check me, as in your blood pressure and things like that.
So what are some of the signs that women should look out for? Because there will be certain things where, like, for example, I could be sitting there and going, oh, I feel really hot, but I'm only, 31. That's definitely not menopause. But when you're a bit older, what are the signs that you should look out for that maybe might trigger in your head, actually, I might need to go and get this checked?
Hot flushes, body shape changing, skin changing, hair, definitely was for me anyway. So your hair starts, maybe when you're washing it, falling out more than it would normally. And emotional, just emotional over the slightest thing, like something that you would have just taken on the chin before, you might think, oh my God, I'm just gonna start crying over that now. People around you will tell you as well. So for example, people around me would say to me, why am I just shouting or getting moody over the slightest thing? And you're doing it, but it's almost like, but I've just got to do this, like something takes over. So yeah, you will have people around you telling you, even if you don't admit it or see it yourself. But yeah, the biggest thing for me has got to be the hot flashes, and I couldn't sleep at night. Having 3 to 4 hours sleep per night was not normal for me. I was someone who would have about 8 hours sleep per night. So obviously it affects you the next day, hence you're moody and emotional because you're tired as well.
Of course.
So that was the biggest ones for me, and not everybody has the same.
And what was the worst stage for you? What do you think was the worst effect that it had on you?
So before they did the blood test and confirmed I was perimenopausal, the worst part was the hot flushes, along with the eczema flared up so badly that it was on my face, my hair, everywhere. So then that was purely because my skin was drying out, your estrogen levels drop. The eczema got me really down to the point where I was like, there must be something. So they could have treated the eczema, but they then worked out that it was actually the menopause that was triggering that. So they needed to treat both things at the same time for me.
And on your social media, you talk about something called brain fog. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so in menopause, you tend to forget things, or I'm a massive multitasker. Like, I believe I should be doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. So all of a sudden it was, I couldn't do as many, or I would forget things. So I've always been a list person. So my lists, I would make a list on a list, and then another list out of that. And before you know it, I'd have 3 lists, and I'm marking all of them, trying to tick things off for all of them. But yeah, so it's, you suddenly just forget things. You don't remember as much as you could previously. So I used an example where your grandmother or your mum or somebody would call you every person's name before they actually got to yours. I think I did that with my daughter and my sister, like I'd be like calling one or the other. But it was, again, as soon as I went on HRT patches, I just went back to normal. But again, not everybody gets brain fog, and I didn't actually have that for long. That was only, I probably only had it for about a month, and then that sort of went, because I think I learned to deal with it, and then I found ways of getting around it, like my lists.
Definitely. And then you started talking about this on social media. What made you start talking about it on social media?
My clients. So when I was talking to them and they started sharing their stories with me and helping me, because it was my clients who helped me understand it, see the symptoms, I was really fortunate that I had all of that. So I thought, well, why can't I help other people? Because then I started talking to my younger clients who were younger than me and possibly thinking they're going through it, but weren't sure. So I was like, well, you just need to go and see your doctor and they'll be able to confirm it or not. Because yeah, I know I was 46, but I know women who've gone through it in their late 30s, early 40s. There is no definite age. So that's why I started talking about it. It's just to help other women. And I've been really lucky with stories people have shared with me. Obviously, I never post anything to say who it was. It would always be anonymous if they're happy to share the story. So yeah, it was to help people, help other women who are going through. And like you said earlier, it's not talked about in our culture. A lot of women didn't even know that their mum has already gone through it. So some of my posts have prompted them to ask their mum, which I think is quite nice. And some mums are probably a little bit shocked that, oh my God, why are you asking me this? We don't talk about these things. Or some of them have shared their experiences, because my mum was actually 46 as well when she started, and I didn't know she was going through menopause. I had 2 young children at the time, so my kids were about 8 and 5 when my mum would have been going through it. And they, I didn't know, I didn't offer any support because she never shared it. She just silently went through it. And she has told me now her symptoms were as bad as mine were.
And the thing is, that's quite, like, had she have told you, then when it first came on, you might have been a bit more quicker to go and do something about it, because you would have thought, hold on a second, my mum had it at the same age. So, you know, I need to get this checked. Has it also helped you to talk about it? So because you've been talking to other people, you've been putting posts up on social media, has it helped you through that process?
It has, definitely. It took me a year to start posting this on social media. So I did have this idea about a year ago, but it's not easy to talk about. Because I get a lot of questions as well, so I have to be really careful how I answer them, because I am no expert on it. I am only sharing what happened to me. So yes, it's been hard starting, but I do love it now. And the support, the messages that I get, it does keep me going, and I've got lots more to share. And they're not, I will relate it to beauty side as well, because I can, along with what I've done to help myself. But yeah, it's been hard to start sharing it, I will definitely say that. And it's not everyone sees it as a good thing.
Would you say you were scared? Because I know, like, I started talking about my diabetic journey, and I was a bit scared about people judging me, saying, you know, why are you talking about it? Or, you know, maybe if you just done this, you wouldn't be in that situation. Did you find the same thing? Because menopause, unlike diabetes, is a lot more, I think, hidden. People don't talk about it at all. So were you quite scared to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it took me a year. So yes, I was scared. Even now, some things when I share them, just before I'm about to press post, I'll be like, oh God, do I want to say that? Do I want to share this? So yes, definitely scared. Absolutely. So yes, like you said, diabetes, people talk about it a little bit more. Menopause is a taboo subject, especially for an Asian woman to talk about it. Like, why am I talking about it? Why do you feel you have to talk about it? You know, I have had some people say that to me, and it does put you off. You do have to carry on and rise above it, because to every one person saying that, I'll get 10 people saying well done or thank you. And I think the biggest thank you I can have is when it's someone younger, say someone your age, Vallisa, who says, I asked my mum how she felt when she had it. And sometimes the mum's quite grateful that she can now share it and talk about it, because prior to that, she wouldn't have said to her daughter, oh, by the way, when you go through menopause, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or this is what happened to me. Because sometimes you don't know as children, your husband, your partner, your family around you, they just don't share it, because they're supposed to silently just get on with it.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because when a girl's quite young and her mum talks to her about periods and they explain to them what's going to happen and stuff, but yet menopause, I think it's because by that point the mother is a lot older. They see the child is not a child anymore. She's now an adult. She can deal with stuff herself. So why would I want to speak to her about it? And also, I feel like menopause is something where, like you said, people can go through really hard times and they don't want to let their kids see them as weak or see them feel like they're in any sort of pain. So they decide just not to talk about it at all.
Yeah, totally agree. And I know you mentioned that the mother will talk to you about a period. Well, I was in a generation that even that wasn't talked about. So yeah, so I haven't had that chat. I haven't had a menopause chat until I asked her, obviously. So yeah, you're right. They're just not talked about. I don't know why. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But luckily, we've got information now that we can just Google things. We can find out things. But my mum didn't have that. She just silently went through it. I mean, my mum's somebody who came over from India, and she's got no family in this country. So I don't know who she spoke to about it. I should ask her that. Apart from her doctor, who probably confirmed, yes, you're going through menopause. She didn't have HRT, and she just, she's got osteoporosis now. That's a bit of an age thing, but she didn't have anyone to talk to, because I think even between other aunties or other friends or whatever, that it wasn't something they talked about a lot. They might have said, oh yeah, I'm getting a hot flush, and you know, are you getting this as well? And somebody else would say yes, or have you tried this, have you tried that? And cold showers and, you know, a fan in the room was probably all they did.
Yeah. So now we have said that you're not an expert, you're just talking about your journey. So if people have questions, is there somewhere they can go? Is there somewhere where you sort of Googled that helped you more? Or do you know people that can, you know, they can talk to if they have questions?
Always your doctor. Absolute must, because whilst I had a blood test, and I think that was just purely because they didn't think I was going through it, I was too young, they don't always do a blood test. So sometimes it is just by your symptoms or by things like you haven't had a period for a whole year. So they can then advise you on what's probably going to happen next. So always your doctor. Speak to your sister, your mum, if you've got someone who's already been through it. My symptoms were very similar to my mum's, so she now tells me. I don't know if everybody's always going to be the same as their mum or their sister. But and Google's amazing. Look up what's going to happen to your body. Why is it happening? What can you do? What foods will help? Exercise. Apart from that, I haven't had, and my clients, I was really lucky. But yeah, talk to people around you, talk to your doctor, look up things that will help you. There are lots and lots of herbal things that you can try out as well. And I have tried them, but not everything doesn't work for everyone. So you just got to try them out and give it a fair chance. I think sometimes we try something, if something doesn't happen after a week, we're like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. You need to give these things time. And it took me just under a year until I finally went on HRT. So I did try a few things before I got to that stage, and I did try and avoid it, because everyone kept saying there's side effects, you need to look out for this, that and the other, but there's also benefits as well, but you need to make sure they're right for you, and then obviously everyone's medical history is different, so it was okay for me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. And I know that you're still going to be talking about this menopause journey on your social media. So I will put your social media there and your handle there for anyone that maybe wants to share their story with you, or they can share it with me and I can share it with you. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Vallisa.